Hello, welcome to episode 131 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Today I have an incredible guest who I've learned so much from over the years. Frequently, I get a little afraid of aging and not knowing what it will mean and stuff. So I need role models, and my guest today is just an amazing role model. I'll tell you more about her in a minute, but first the intro.
Today's guest, Leone Kayl.
We we had a slight mistake. It's Leone Kayl. I'm proud to call Leone a great friend. She has 6 children, 9 grandchildren, and 12 great grandchildren. She is the author of a memoir called A Work in Progress. She is currently retired and she just celebrated her 100th birthday a few weeks ago. Please welcome Leone Kayl. Hey, Leone, welcome to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm just flattered to be here.
So, I'm so excited to ask you a lot of things, but first question, thinking back, if I had asked you when you were 7 years old what you wanted to be when you grew up, what would you have said?
I think I would have said a dress designer,
What did
fashion
you
designer.
what did you love about the idea of being a fashion designer?
Well, I just always liked to, I like to wear. I like to dress fashionably, and I thought it would be and it would also be quite lucrative if you reach to a successful, stage.
How did your dream for your life change from being a fashion designer?
Well, I don't know exactly. There's no certain moment. It just changed, I guess. Maybe meeting this handsome Marine at the Arcota Ballroom at a dance in December, and finding out that this girl he danced with all the time, I thought must be his girlfriend, but it was his sister. And he came home from Chicago every weekend on the Hiawatha to spend the weekend with his family. And as long as that wasn't his sister, with a little flirting, we managed to start dating at Christmas time. And by Valentine's Day, I had a diamond.
Wow.
So I guess after that, my ideas of my career turned into motherhood. And the next years, I spent trying to raise a family. And
what year did you meet your husband?
let's see. We met in 46. We were married in 1947.
No, 46.
Or 40.
April. You met in December and you got married in April.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh,
It
it
was,
was 45.
What are your favorite memories of your wedding?
oh, I had a beautiful wedding. It was at Augustana Lutheran Church on 7th and Prairie, of which I still am a member. And my wedding, I remember I borrowed a dress because my good friend's sister had just gotten married. She had this beautiful dress. I tried it on and it just fit. So I thought, why buy a dress if I could borrow one? And so I wore that dress, and we were married at Augustana Lutheran Church on a was it Saturday night or Friday night, and we no, must have been Saturday night. We stayed at the no, we flew out. This was unusual. Right after the reception, we went to the airport.
Yeah.
And flew to Omaha. We had a complimentary room at the Epley Hotel because Bob was working at the hotel. At the Carpenter Hotel. He was working there at night, so he could go to Augie and go to school. So we were married then, and spent the night at that Epley Hotel. Sunday morning, we flew back home because he had to be in class on Monday morning. So that it was a short honeymoon. Yes.
I was conceived. But I was the result of that.
Yeah, oh yeah, Jennifer says she's a souvenir. Yeah, and one of my aunts, I never thought about it. One of my aunts said, well, Jennifer is a souvenir then of the honeymoon. I said, well, I guess you could say that. Yeah. And so that's kind of like, and I do have a nice picture album. So we did get pictures too. So I mean, not like nowadays they have a professional photographer, but this was just a friend that he was kind of a professional photographer, but he just did this, for not for a fee, just did it as a favor.
And we all played with it as kids.
So what?
You can say we all played with it as kids.
Yeah.
When we were kids, we played with it. You can say that. You can say that.
Say what?
We all played with it when we were kids. The photo album.
I can't hear what you're talking to my back, Jennifer.
We all played with the photo album as
Oh
kids.
yes, yeah, and I put the pictures after they were finished in a little photo album, and through the years, my children looked at this album, and it's just kind of a beat up condition. But I think, well, if they enjoyed looking at those pictures, so be it. Yeah. But I think that it's been.
So what do you love about raising 6 children?
Well, at the time you don't really think about where you just you try to. Things kind of come at you all at once, Jason. And
I bet it's really busy.
Yeah, by the time you think you might have a nervous breakdown, somebody comes in hungry. So it was it was a lot of shall I say, well, ups and downs, hills and valleys, with all these different personalities. Trying to do that, trying to deal with all these different personalities of these children, and it's still difficult today. But I mean, I mean, I try to. I hope that they. You wonder if they feel like they had a good childhood. But I have to ask. I think they. I get lots of nice Mother's Day cards, so I think they felt like they weren't cheated really, because I had the. Well, I was an only child for 6 years, and growing up with just and then growing up with one sister. So it was a
Oh,
little.
you come from you have one sibling, huh?
So what, Jason?
You have one sister.
Yeah, I just have one sister, and I'm sorry to say that she has passed away. So let's see, quite a few years ago.
Mm, mm.
But so it was almost, like I said, I was alone for 6 years. It was almost like I was an only child, for a while. And then my sister passed away. So no, and I always thought it would be nice to have had a brother. And
We didn't.
after when my through the later years, my daughter said, "Are you crazy? You thought?" And I think they still kind of feel that way, but I mean, that's how families are.
What
Uh,
what what advice would you give to a new parents who are expecting their first baby?
oh well, it was kind of unusual, and in the fact that well, in the first place, she was early, and that the one time that Jennifer was on, not only on time, she was early, and so and in those days, and she was born at McKenna Hospital. Of course, today it's called Avera, but
What kind of advice would you give people having their first child?
oh, what type of advice?
Just love
Well, let's see. I have to think for a minute if I can condense it down. Just enjoy the journey, but get ready for a lot of surprises.
Enjoy the journey, but get ready for a lot of surprises.
Yes, and not both good and bad. But I come in conclusion, I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Aw.
So I think I'm very blessed, and it's just it's quite a journey. And now, and another thing, in your old age, they are so nice to have around,
Mm,
you know.
mm,
So I am just very grateful because they have all been so good to me.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
But
Changing subjects a little bit, a lot. You've seen a lot of technology changes in your lifetime.
I have, Jason. It's hard to even imagine how many. I mean, when you think about it, 10 decades, there's a lot of changes in 10 decades in everything. And it's amazing, the things that have happened. I mean, not only the big things like, you know, the ending of World War II, 9/11, things. I mean, those things.
You didn't have TVs or telephones.
No, we didn't have. No, we didn't have. Well, we had telephones there for
Crank phones.
Oh, well, we didn't have cell phones, no. But we had a TV though, even when
Not when
we
you were a kid.
when they first came. No, not when I was a child. No, of course not. No. And
What was it like to have a TV for the first time?
well, it was really quite amazing, and it happened to be a free TV set. Somehow I registered, or we registered at some place where they were giving a free TV or something. So here they came out to our place here on South Prairie with this beautiful Magnavox television.
Wow.
And I think the kids were really excited, weren't you, Jennifer? You remember?
Yeah. It was exciting.
It was black and white, wasn't it? Yeah.
They didn't have color.
No, they didn't have color then. But that was like I said, it was quite a surprise. And it was so funny. After that, several years later, and then this is sort of several years later, I'm working at Hy-Vee part-time as a demo lady.
Oh yeah.
And at the Christmas party, I mean, I know this one time especially, I was driving, I went to it was at the Ramada Inn, and I drove out there really fast. I went in and it was the wrong one. There was another one. I thought, oh my gosh. So I got in the car. I hurriedly drove over to another one. I went in and they gave you a number when you went in. They gave you a number because that's going to be for the drawing. And would you believe I won the TV? I had the winning ticket.
So the second one, so this one was color probably.
Yeah, and and it was a beautiful color TV, and it was just kind of funny because if I had been on time, I wouldn't have had that number if I had been on time.
Oh wow.
See?
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
So, speaking of changes, so many people, including me, get nervous about the changes in life and about how big the changes can be. What reflections do you have on dealing with change?
Well, I guess, Jason, you just have to be. You have to be flexible. You have to be very resilient, and kind of go with the changes.
You always say go with the flow.
So, and you will go with the flow, like you do, to make it more poetic. But
How do you teach yourself to be resilient?
well, I don't know if there's any formula, a special formula, but I think it's a matter of self-preservation.
Hmm.
If you aren't resilient, you're going to sink.
Resilience is a matter of self-preservation. That's profound.
Well, you just find that you just have it has to be that way. Otherwise, like I said, you'd sink, or you'd be a nervous wreck. Yeah.
Well, when you had 6 kids at home, young, how did you learn to deal with like the nervousness that comes with having?
But the everyday existence, how I
Yeah.
deal with it. Well, you have, like I said, if you like by the time you have six, you have the oldest one is old enough to help with the others.
Mm.
By that time, she's what, 13?
Then you have staff. I was a staff.
You were what?
A staff member.
Yeah. And if the oldest one is a girl, I think that's better because the boys were more interested in what they were doing, and they wouldn't be as helpful like that. But
I was a staff person. So you had a staff. You had a staff. STAFF.
yeah, Jennifer was a staff person,
Yeah,
and
McKinnon. Yeah.
she when she had a little training because she'd been a candy striper at the Kennedy Hospital, so she was kind of it was kind of I was glad that she was old enough to help because by the time Michelle was born, she had she was a sweet, cutest baby, but she had colic.
Oh.
Right. And she cried, and she cried for about 3 hours every day. So
Oh, that's tough.
yeah, and we tried all kinds of different nipples and different sizes and different things. Nothing worked, but well, then Jennifer was old enough, to kind of help with this cranky baby, and I never. Cause I never had a pediatrician with the others. I did have a pediatrician for this last one, and because she was premature, the doctor said her lungs haven't developed quite enough yet, so that's what gave her the colic.
Mm.
And but by the time he said, by the time she's 3 months old, it'll be better. And would you believe it was just like a clock? She reached 3 months, no more colic.
That must have been a huge relief.
Oh, it really was. And it was just and we enjoyed her, and and she's been I say she's kind of a bonus because when she was Bob.
What? What? Leone? Leone?
Turned out to be she's very very practical, and she's the well, I would say the go-to girl. She gets things done, and uh, and helps me in so many ways. And Jennifer Kay keeps me inspired. It keeps my brain working, and Michelle does the physical things, and she, when there's a test to be done, okay, let's get it done. And when Jennifer, we do the imaginary, creative things, like that. So, but it's been quite a journey, like I say. And the toughest job I ever had, I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Oh.
Yeah.
Speaking of colic, you love the phrase "this too shall pass."
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, that comes in handy so many times, Jason. I mean, you know,
Why is that phrase important to you?
well, sometimes you think things, yeah, they're all in chaos. You know, if things are in chaos, then it happens. We know that. I mean, not only in the universe, but in the household even. And then you have to think, well, this too shall pass,
Hmm.
and it does. And it usually
Hmm.
does, and you usually survive. I mean, I have so far. I have so far.
Yeah. You have a good record.
I have to just, yeah, keep doing what I'm doing. Like I said, and I got another thing. I think, everything in moderation.
Why is that important?
Well, because you hear people say, "Oh, oh no, I never eat. I don't eat sweets." Well, if you do it in moderation, I mean, unless you're diabetic, of course, it makes a difference. But if you have a little bit of something sweet, I think that's good. In moderation. If you get instead of being an exercise fanatic, try to walk 7 miles a day. I used to walk around the track and do a mile a day because I live right by the Lincoln Eye track. But as you
Hmm.
get older, if you can do even some uh, um, chair exercise inside, you know, do
Hmm.
something,
Hmm.
do something, and
Hmm.
everything in moderation.
Hmm.
As far as your food, your exercise, your pleasures,
Hmm.
the way you live,
Hmm.
your lifestyle. Yeah, and be sure you have good kids that like to bother you, bother with picking you up after you no longer drive,
Hmm.
and take you to places and bring you over to their house, like Jennifer is doing right now, and which we are enjoying this interview. And Jason, I still remember that signing at Zandros when you sold all those books, and,
Oh.
you it was a highlight of a highlight of my life in a way, to see how pleased you were and how surprised you were. Like, is this happening? And it did.
Oh. That was thanks for reminding me of that. It was such a fun day. It's so much work to write a book, and it's so enjoyable. What do you love about writing your book?
Well, I don't know. I just I like to have something on record for my children. I think that was the that was my big motivation.
It was good memories. You had fun telling the stories. It was good. It was good to tell the stories.
Yeah, I thought it was mostly for my husband, but then when
Your
my
kid.
when my cousin, who is Steve Egger, he went into Zambros frequently, and he saw this. I guess I don't. And so Jeff Dance had my book there.
Yeah, up in front.
Yeah, and So Steve, I don't know if he heard that I don't think he even knew that I'd written one. Anyway, he picked it up. He opened up a page and he was telling things about Al Adler that he didn't even know, this stuff about his dad. So he bought all the books that he had there. He bought 6 books. He bought one for he had 3 daughters. He bought one for each daughter.
Oh,
Yeah, and then he bought one for he had one sister, and she lived in California. He sent one to her, and then he had a copy. So for him and Chris. So yeah, and
that's so rewarding to enhance someone's life like that. To that you were able to give him stories that he didn't know. That's so neat. What a great thing for him to get those stories from you.
I thought that was very sweet. And to help put that book together, I had some help though. Kathy McGreevy, does that. She puts these
Mm,
helps in the assembly of this book.
Michelle did pictures,
And Michelle did a lot of the pictures,
and I did a lot of interviews too.
and Jennifer did a lot too.
I mean, I don't know if people often realize it, but books really are usually quite the team effort.
Yeah.
To produce a book, it takes a team, and sounds like you had a really good team.
I did, Jason, and then I've also enjoyed the company of your dad and your mom through the years. I just enjoyed my association with your
Mm.
dad and your mom. They are so special.
They really are the kind good people.
And I sat next to your dad at the restaurant the other night, and he has such a sense of humor. I you know he it's just entertainment. When you get to see when I was sat by him, I thought, oh my goodness, this is great.
Oh,
Yeah, and your mom is so sweet, and
oh.
she is a survivor. She's gone through a lot, but she's a survivor.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
How did you learn to trust your heart?
How did what, Jason?
How did you
I'm so. How did you learn to trust your heart?
how did you learn to trust your heart?
How did I learn to trust it? Well,
Your heart.
I guess I just in instinct. It's just an inborn instinct.
And your mom did. Your mom did.
Yeah, and my mother did. She had asthma for so many years, and still she made such a she did such all her household tasks, and she was such a good cook. And when she was really lost a lot of strength because of her asthma, she would stir up her buns, have a neighbor lady come in and punch the dough down, and she'd just do that for her.
And she had a good heart, and so did your grandmother.
And well, yeah,
Your grandmother, they both had good hearts. They were always caring for people.
yeah. And my grandmother, who came over from Sweden, and had these 11 children.
She had 11 children.
My grandma Johnson.
Wow.
My mother was one of 11.
Wow.
Yeah, let's see, it was 5 boys and 6 girls, I think. Yes, and they grew up, in Crooks. They were on this little old wooden shack of a house, and by Crooks, and they were on they are the land that Benton Lutheran Church is on to this day. My grandpa gave the land to Benton Lutheran Church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
This was in the 1800s, huh?
1898. Oh no, no, yeah, 1898. But that makes, yeah, and
They moved there in the early before that, 1886, maybe 85.
Did
oh
did
no,
you
let's
did
see,
you,
but it
Leon?
was 1989. Would that be? And she was a twin. She has a twin brother, Jason.
Did, did you get to know them, Leon? Were they around when you were a kid?
They were very much a part of my life, all these aunts and uncles, because the 5 boys all married Norwegian girls and settled within a radius of like 12 miles. Crooks, Sioux Falls, Hartford, and Colton.
Wow.
So I had all these cousins. There were about at one time there were like 23 cousins, and so then we'd always go to Grandma Johnson's on Christmas Eve. No matter how cold or what the weather, we were there in Crooks for Christmas Eve supper. It was a supper then. And
That was a lot of people in one house.
yeah, and then after they moved off of the farm, they bought a very nice house in Crooks, and it was a nice bungalow, like a 2-bedroom bungalow, and had a kitchen, and it had a dining room though, and Alice stayed home. She didn't get married because my grandpa had Parkinson's, so she needed to be there to help her mother take care
Hmm.
of her father.
Talk about your grandmother saying if there's room at the
Yeah.
table.
And so after all these children got married and settled so close, and we still had to be there for Christmas Eve dinner, and Alice was the last one to be home there, and she'd say, "Mom, I don't know how we're going to see all these people." And my grandma would say, "Where there's heart room, there's room."
Where there's hot room, there's room.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And she had this nice dining room, table, the long table. So the grown-ups ate first, and then the children, waited and ate next.
Hmm.
It worked out fine, and we had Swedish meatballs and always lutefisk,
I've never tried lutefisk.
Well,
Do you like lutefisk?
well, like my dad had never had that before he married my mom, and it doesn't have it doesn't have a good smell at all, Jason.
Hmm.
But it is good. You just eat it with a lot of melted butter. Yeah, and it's just you develop the taste for it, and it is. But now they have what they call torsk.
Oh.
And have you had tortoise? Have you ever had that?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. Did you like it?
I thought it was kind of so torsk is a fish, right?
Yeah.
I I thought it was kind of bland,
Yeah, it is.
actually.
But that's another thing they say about the Swedish our menu. If you look at it, it's so white. You know the torso, and it was usually they have white the meatballs were in a white gravy, and then lefse,
Is white.
yeah, lefse. So there you are. They said it was really kind of boring. Yeah, there's no spices really. You know, there was like in the desserts there would be cardamom, but it was just kind of like I said, all white and bland. But you know,
Unless is like a soft shell tortilla kind of
yeah, well,
only different.
left says because you know, and we always make them at the church bazaars. Always sell it, and even stores sell packages of lefse. You know, and people will put butter on it, and some put brown sugar butter on it, and it's just like I said, you kind of develop a taste for that stuff, you know, and but it is sort of I guess when you think about it, when you think of like other what you think Mexican or Chinese or you know, there's a lot of spices and chili beans and you know all that kind of good Mexican stuff and
You had on your list that you like Tabasco sauce.
oh, Tabasco adds so much to anything. I just it's kind of a staple on my table, Jason. It's a sta-
Wow,
it's a staple like salt and pepper.
wow! You really must like flavor, huh?
Yeah, but the thing about cream chicken or even a wild rice dish, spice it up with Tabasco, it'll be twice as good. Really,
Awesome.
yeah. And it gives that little color, you know, and it's good.
Speaking of Sweden, you like how do you say it? The afternoon coffee or whatever
Oh,
fika.
yeah. Well, that is a tradition, Jason. I mean, it's not just like, you know, you might think about having coffee. I mean, it is a tradition that is practiced. It is sort of like mandatory for these Swedish people.
It's mandatory.
But would you say that, Jennifer?
Yeah, fika. F-I-K-A.
Yeah, and the Swedish term for that break is fika. And it can be a verb or an adjective
Or a noun. And you have to,
or a noun, yeah.
but you have to have treats and talk and visit.
And yeah, and Jennifer reminded me. And when the requisites, you have to have somebody to visit with. You know, it isn't something you just grab a cup of coffee, like, you know, run to the. This is it's mandatory to sit down and visit with somebody,
And have a treat.
and have something sweet. And you know, I heartily recommend it. I think it's a good custom. I have a book called Jennifer. You gave me this book, coffee, and then yeah, you visit, and you know, it's just like I said, it's something that's practiced in nearly every home, Jason.
No,
I mean,
sounds wonderful.
yeah, you are
Wha-
true Scandinavian if you don't do that. You know, really, yeah.
Changing subjects. I'm thinking about your life. What would you say to someone who's who's lost their husband or wife about honoring the person they lost, but moving forward at the same time?
What do you mean? You mean after my family, how they move forward?
Honoring them. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
What
Well,
what would you say about losing your husband and how you move forward?
And
Yeah.
honored them. Yeah. How did you
Yeah.
move forward and honor them?
You know, it was hard, Jason, because he was young. You know, he was too young to die. He was too young.
How young was he?
He was 58.
Oh, so young.
Yeah. And but the thing is, you know, what gets you through these times is you have to think this was God's plan, and you have to think of the ones that are still here. You can't fall by. You have to lift them up and keep going and just doing the daily ritual gets you through it.
Hmm.
And at that time, I was still working part time at Minnehaha. So going to work in the evening like that, I had to think about what this table ordered and, you know, if I was going to get that food out there and in the right way. And it just, and time kind of eases pain
Hmm.
as time goes on, you know. And that job it was good that I had never done anything like that before. And but my sister-in-law, who lived a block from where we lived, had worked in food service for all her life because Ed Kayl had a cafe and she worked in food service. So she said, well, maybe Leone, you'd like to just maybe work at the club for a little bit, you know, an evening when if you wanted to do that. And
Waiting tables, you have to keep track of so much. Like everyone wants something different, and
yeah, well, you kind of just you know, you just kind of work into it. And at first I said, well, I told my sister, I said, I haven't done any of this. I don't think I'd be good at it. She said, but that's okay. Just come out and pour coffee in for maybe a couple. Well, then I started out pouring coffee. Then I guess I was hooked, and you know, and I just gradually that just got me out of the house, and it was, you know, a little extra money, and so I just and the people were very nice. You know, the people. I mean, some people think that you know, people who are a little bit well-to-do that they're going to be snobbish and snooty. They are the nicest people. You know, really,
hmm,
they are nice. Most of them, you know. I mean, there are always a few, maybe a few that are quite too so nice, but it was good thing to do, and a lot of those people would come into the Hy-Vee when I was working, and they come in to shop, and we always had a nice little conversation, and you know, and they were very very nice, and I always say that you learn something from every job you do, no matter Even if it's dishwashing, washing dishes. So you just kind of.
Hy-Vee is a grocery store for those of you listening who are not from the Midwest. Hy-Vee,
So, Jason, you could always, and I always like to have people stop in, like I said, and I can always put coffee, always make coffee. My door's open, and I like to have people stop. Now that I don't drive anymore, but my girls are good about getting me out. My family is very good about getting me out, but I still like to have people stop in, and I'm so grateful I can still be in my old home where I've lived for 50 years.
you lived there for 50 years. Wow.
Wow, is right, and there were about 3 or 4 of us who have lived in that neighborhood that long. So it's just like we said, nobody could move out of the neighborhood unless they took everybody else along. Yeah. So, and we can. It isn't so easy for us now to get out, but we still have our little coffee parties, our little coffee sessions, quite frequently. Yeah. But now with the weather's getting nicer now, so it'd be easier.
Oh, thank goodness the weather's getting nicer. What
Oh,
what do you love about collecting Santas?
about collecting Santas. Well, that's they said I don't know how it got started, but I just I know. Um, I had this huge. They had this huge Santa in for the display at a Caldwell shoe store. So every Christmas that would be in the window, and
Yeah.
it was dressed, in white and gold. How big would you say it was? Yeah, about 3 or 4 feet, tall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Dad was working there.
So what?
Dad was working there.
Yeah, but and Bob was working there, and he was the manager later on. But then Caldwell decided he was going to close the stores, and that was I don't know what year that was, but anyway, Bob had worked there many years, so he just brought that Santa home, that one, and then I just started. I started collecting the small ones, and the little ceramic ones. Oh, yes, Jason, I know how I started those small ones. My neighbor across the street she was good at doing the artistic things. So she bought these smaller ceramic Santas, maybe like 6 inches, these ceramic ones. And then she found some that they were holding a scroll. So on one of the scrolls, she took a fine paintbrush. She printed all the names of my children.
Aw.
And then she found another one, and she painted all the names of all the grandchildren. And so every year she would buy me a little ceramic Santa Claus. Every year she'd buy me some kind of a little ceramic Santa Claus. But then my family too. Then Jennifer started picking up these Santas also because I had a display on my hutch.
Awesome. Awesome. We're wrapping up just a few more questions. It's been so great to talk with you, but so many people have fear about getting older and aging and all that. What would you say to people about the joy of getting older?
Well, the joy of getting older, I mean, it depends upon your circumstances. I mean, if you're, if you're in fairly good health, I think there's so much to enjoy. If you're physically disabled or you're not well, it's different. But I have been blessed, with pretty good health.
You took care of yourself, though.
But like I said, I've tried to take care of myself. Like practicing moderation and exercising. Yeah, eating right, walking. When I was pregnant, I thought, oh, I need to walk, and I used to walk, and especially, I was still walking when, in these later years, I'd go down to the tennis courts,
Hmm.
the Lincoln High tennis courts, because that is such, soft surface to walk on, and Jennifer would go with me lots of times to walk, and then try, and eating right, and
Never smoking.
oh, and not ever smoking, because I think that cuts many years off your life, and I think that my sister smoked, and she was much younger.
Well, you can say if you take good care of yourself, you have a lot to enjoy. You did a lot of traveling in your 80s.
So what?
You take good care of yourself, there's
Yeah,
a lot to
yeah,
enjoy.
I took good care of myself, Jason.
Hmm.
And then I had the opportunity to do all this traveling.
In
I
your
mean,
70s and 80s.
in my 70s and 80s.
Hmm.
Yeah. And Jeff and Yuri took me on these cruises, and I had the opportunity. I mean, how many people in their 70s? I got to visit Rome and Paris, and I stayed at the Vatican in Rome. Would you believe?
Wow. Wow.
But it just happened that they had a little, not really an apartment, but a room for the mothers who came to visit their sons when they were studying to be when they were going to become, well, not priests, when they were studying for the priesthood. Yeah, that room was vacant, so I stayed there. It was
Wow.
at the Vatican,
Wow.
and then of course, I got to I got to visit the Pope and check out the Sistine Chapel, and you wonder how Michelangelo ever painted that ceiling.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yes, and then and I stayed there because Father Mahold was a brother of my neighbor across the street, and that's how I could stay there.
Oh, Father Mahal. No. Wow.
Yeah, and we went. The first night we were down. It was beautiful weather. We were sat outside on the sidewalk, and we had gelato. That's the first time I had gelato. We sat out there,
Hmm.
and it was it was just such a wonderful experience. And then we through in the Spanish Steps and 3 coins in the fountain, the Spanish
Huh.
Steps and all, to experience that, all that,
Huh.
and then yeah, and Jeff and Yuri took me on wonderful cruises, and then
Sweet.
yeah,
Sweet. So sounds really wonderful. So a lot of traveling in your 70s and 80s. That's so inspiring.
yeah,
So last question. I ask all my guests this. So I talk in my work about the power of doing our imperfect best. And what it means to me is we have a vision for our life and then we go for it. But mistakes happen and things we can't predict happen. And instead of letting that stuff shut us down, we use that stuff to learn and keep moving towards our best.
right.
What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Leone Kayl?
So
What does doing your best mean?
what
What
doing?
does doing your imperfect best mean?
Your imperfect best. You're not going to be perfect, but what does doing your imperfect best
Well,
mean?
yeah. Well, it depends on your physical ability and your strength, and
Good.
you just do the best. You do the best you do the best you can, and of course you have to put a little effort into it, but do the best you can.
It's every day. Enjoy every day.
Yeah, enjoy every day. Think, but this is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I don't know which verse it is. I think about that.
Wow, that's beautiful. Congratulations on your 100th birthday. Thanks for being my friend and thanks so much to for talking to us for an hour. Learned a lot and enjoyed our time together.
Wait,
Thank you.
Jason, I was very flattered that you asked me to do this, and because I enjoy you so much, and I think so highly of you, and I was very flattered that you asked me to do that. I want to say thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. I appreciate it. Hope to see you soon.
Okay, I hope to see you soon. I want you to stop.
And visit.
Oh wow, it's just so fun. I know I say this every week, but it's so fun talking to people and getting the stories and Leone and I just scratched the surface. She's lived 10 decades. Imagine how many stories she has, how much wisdom she has, and then think about how many stories you have, how much wisdom you have, and then think everyone has stories, everyone has wisdom. I used to be so shy about sharing my stories and wisdom, but I'm finding more and more I love it. And I also love listening to other people's stories and wisdom because can not only learn so much, but it's so inspiring. People are simply inspiring. Leone's inspiring. She just is. You're inspiring. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're watching this when it airs or whether you're watching it later. If a question comes to mind, please drop it in the chat. I love seeing questions and comments. And next week will be another exciting guest. Please tune in and thank you all. Have a great week. Talk to you later.